Little pre-stream stretch, okay. All right, guys, we should be live. Let's see. Let's pull it up on my end real quick. Yes, we are live. What is up, everybody? Good morning. Wonderbro here with Vacay Fear. I hope you're all having a very fantastic, lovely day, night, wherever you're watching from, whatever time it is where you are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Olivia. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing? It's going to be a good one, guys. It's going to be a good one. We're going to be talking about fear today, our favorite topic here on the channel. Fear. There is nothing to fear but fear itself. That is what we're going to be talking about today. The chat is working. That is awesome. All right. The chat is working. Let's see. Chat is working. I just went to the dentist and had a lot of anxiety, but you survived, right? See, here we are now. You're in my chat. Nothing happened. Your fears didn't happen. Your fears didn't come true, right? Jess, what is up? King, what's up? How are you, brother? I'm doing good, man. How are you doing? Hey, Wonder Bro, hope you're well. Hi from Siberia. Hello, welcome. Can you see my comments finally? Yes, I figured it out last night. I got you. I got you. I finally figured it out. I finally figured it out, Olivia. What's up? How's everybody doing today? There's nothing to fear but fear itself. That is the point of today's stream. It's going to be a good one. FIFA, what is up? Hey, Chris, hello. How's it going? How are you? We'll give it a few minutes. Let some people get in here, right, before we get going. Early morning stream, 9 a.m. here. How is everybody doing in chat? Finally catching you live again from the Netherlands. That's awesome. Welcome. Yeah, this is a unusual time for me to stream this early, so people from other time zones, they kind of get a pop in here and watch us live. Good Wonder Bro, how are you? I am doing good, Olivia. Welcome to the stream. So if you've got questions, please save your questions for after the stream. I would like to always knock the point of the stream out first, and then we'll get to questions so we don't get too distracted. Good morning, Wonder Bro. Hello, Sanchez, dude. What is up? Good morning. Hope you're having a good morning, dude. Welcome to the stream. We're about to get started. You're just in time. From the UK, 2 o'clock. Nice. What's up, Wonder Bro in chat? What's up, Justin? Welcome. All right, guys. We're about 4 minutes in. We're about 4 minutes in, so we're going to get into the point of the stream. We're going to get started. Let's go ahead and fade this music off into the background here. Jennifer, so glad to catch a live. Just stumbled across your videos a couple days ago. Well, welcome to the channel, Jennifer. We're happy to have you. All right, guys. Let's clear the throat. We got a lot to talk about today. There is nothing to fear but fear itself, the topic of today's stream. So let's start with the bare bone basics, right? What is fear? What is fear? Fear is basically anxiety. What is anxiety? Anxiety is that nervousness. Anxiety are those symptoms that don't seem to want to leave you alone, that you seem to be plagued by, right? Anxiety is that bodily protection mechanism that gets you fighting or fleeing from dangers, right? And all those symptoms in themselves are not problematic. They become problematic when we see them in a negative way. There's no real danger to solve. The body's just a little bit out of whack, right? There's no real danger to solve. The body's just a little bit out of whack. So what happens is when there's no real danger to solve, but we're still experiencing anxiety symptoms, we tend to start using this up here and we get ourselves in trouble. We tend to start looking at the symptoms as a bad thing. We tend to start looking at, judging, and labeling the symptoms as a very bad or negative thing that we don't want to get involved with, that we want to escape from. Oh God, we don't want to feel these feelings. And that's when it becomes a problem. That's when anxiety becomes problematic. That's when fear becomes problematic. So how do you reverse that? And what does the age-old saying, there is nothing to fear but fear itself, come into play here? How does that come into play here? See, fear is what you make it. So we know what fear is. We know what anxiety is. We know what these symptoms are. You've probably experienced your symptoms for a long time now. We know why they're there, right? Because we fear them. So there's nothing to fear but fear itself, right? This is the way we got to look at it. We have to start seeing fear in a new light. Because right now, your problem is you're in a hamster wheel. You have fear symptoms, and then you add more fear, as the great Dr. Claire Weeks would call second fear. You add more fear by the way you look at your symptoms, by the way you talk to yourself about your symptoms, and then you get more fear because the body doesn't know any better. It sees that you're freaking out about something. It sees that you're scared of something, so it gives you more anxiety because that's what the body is programmed to do. It's programmed to protect you. So if it sees that you're fearful of something, it doesn't know what and it doesn't care what, it's going to give you more anxiety. So you're in a hamster wheel. You have fear symptoms, you add more fear to the fear symptoms, you get more fear symptoms. This is the hamster wheel, and this is where a lot of people are stuck. And a lot of people stay stuck for a very long time, but you don't have to. So there's nothing to fear but fear itself. You have to start seeing fear in a new way. You have to start seeing fear in a new light. You have to change your perspective towards fear. You have to change your relationship towards fear. And when I say the word fear, that's really just an umbrella term that covers all of your symptoms, right? Anxiety, fear, same thing. So when I say you have to change your relationship towards fear, I'm saying you have to change your relationship towards anxiety. How do you do that? By changing the way you look at anxiety. The first step is acceptance. We accept the way we feel because we know it's anxiety symptoms. We accept the way we feel, and instead of fighting or running from them like we've done for so long, which obviously isn't getting you anywhere, right? We start to accept the symptoms, relax into them, and go towards them instead of running away from them. Go towards them instead of running away from them. Because when you go towards them willingly, you see that it was you scaring yourself this whole time. Fear symptoms are not much different than feeling excited. Anxiety and excitement are more or less the same feeling. They produce the same symptoms, and we've been talking about this little fact for the past few days because it's so important, and it goes to prove to you just how much your perspective is scaring the shit out of you, right? You're scaring the shit out of yourself. You're telling yourself horror stories over your symptoms time and time again, and the body that doesn't know any better gives you more of the same symptoms that you're trying to get away from. Very ironic, but that's how that works. So we really have to use acceptance in such a way that we allow ourselves to feel whatever it is we're feeling while actively changing our relationship towards anxiety. We have to change our relationship towards anxiety. Dr. Claire Weeks, second fear. What is second fear? The way you talk to yourself about your symptoms. If you're telling yourself horror stories all the time, you are just constantly putting yourself into a bigger state of fear. Right? So it's time to take a step back, see your symptoms for what they are, and change your relationship towards them. There is nothing to fear. Nothing bad is going to come of your anxiety symptoms. Nothing horrible is going to happen to you due to these symptoms. These symptoms are completely harmless. They can't take over your mind and make you go crazy or insane. They can't give you a heart attack. They can't cause some sort of physical death. These symptoms are harmless. Anxiety symptoms are harmless, panic symptoms are harmless, and that's why we say there is nothing to fear but fear itself, the point of today's stream. Nothing bad, nothing traumatic is going to come from your fear symptoms. You're not going to go insane, you're not going to lose your mind, you're not going to have a heart attack, you're not going to suffer some sort of physical or mental death. The only thing there is to fear when it comes to anxiety and panic symptoms is that fear itself. And when I say that fear itself, I mean those symptoms, that anxiety. So there's nothing to fear but anxiety itself. Why do you fear the anxiety itself? Because of what you've convinced and told yourself about the anxiety. That's why you fear it. There's a lot of people out there who can experience excitement, anxiety, again, more or less the same thing, and not fall down that rabbit hole, right? And not fall down that rabbit hole. There's a lot of people out there like that. Okay, so the only difference between you and a person who does not fear their anxiety is what you're telling yourself about your anxiety, is what you're telling yourself about your symptoms. All right? So there is nothing to fear but fear itself. Another way we could put that is there's nothing to fear but anxiety itself. And why do you fear anxiety? Why do you fear anxiety? If we know that there's nothing to fear but fear itself, why do you fear fear? You fear fear because you have convinced yourself and you've come up with these false beliefs that fear is something to be afraid of. There is nothing wrong with being afraid. There is nothing wrong with experience fear symptoms, aka anxiety symptoms. There is absolutely nothing wrong with these symptoms. And I know they seem so horrible and uncontrollable and unbearable. Again, that's what you've convinced yourself of. That's what you've convinced yourself of. And you may watch this and say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. My symptoms are so horrible. Believe me, I was once pissing in bottles and couldn't get out of bed for months on end. I've been through sensitization, but I only got to that point. I only got to that horrible, horrible point because of what I had convinced myself about fear. The stories that I was telling myself. The horror stories I was telling myself. If you begin to practice changing your relationship towards fear, you will see that you were adding 99% of your own suffering. 99% of your own suffering comes from the fact that you fear fear. And why do you fear fear? Because you have convinced yourself for so long that it's something to be afraid of. For one reason or another. Everyone can be different in that regard. Maybe you fear this will happen, or maybe you fear that will happen. Whatever, that's irrelevant. The reason that you fear fear is because you have convinced yourself of so many horror stories for so long. So when those symptoms come on, you automatically fall into this second fear. You automatically fall into this rabbit hole of suffering. Right? So if we know, again, I'll say it again, if we know that there is nothing to fear but fear itself, then why do you fear fear? You fear fear, okay? And this is the last time I'm going to say it, so listen up. You fear fear because of what you have convinced yourself about fear. You fear fear because of the way you perceive fear symptoms. You fear fear because of your beliefs on fear. But we can change those beliefs. We can break those beliefs. And that's what we have to do. As Dr. Claire Weeks calls it, dropping second fear, getting rid of second fear. With enough time and practice, we can absolutely change those beliefs. No matter how solid they are. No matter how concrete they feel. Okay? If there is nothing to fear but fear itself, then it's time to ask yourself, why do you fear fear? Figure it out. And then let's change those perspectives. Figure it out. And then let's change those beliefs. Will this happen overnight, chat? No. No. No, it will not happen overnight. Will it happen? Yes. Yes. With enough time and practice, you can change your relationship with anything. You can change your relationship with anything. So I'm gonna finish the point of the stream with one last little analogy here. By the way, Abraham, I totally got your donation, but I was like mid-rant, so I didn't want to stop. Thank you so much for the $5 dono, bro. Stay awesome, Wonder Bro. Nothing like waking up to Wonder Bro's teachings live on YouTube. Hey, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for that $5. I will update the tip goal in just a second. All right, so we are going to end the point of this stream with an analogy here. If there's nothing to fear but fear itself. So I want you to picture yourself walking down the street. You're walking down the street. You're going on about your day. You're going to work. You're doing whatever it is you're doing. Maybe you're just going for a little walk, smell the fresh air, You're going for a little walk. And every day you pass this same house that's got a big old dog in the yard. A big old dog. He's got a chain wrapped around his neck. He looks ferocious. He's always barking. He's got a little bit of drool coming out of you. Right. Scares the shit out of you. Scares the absolute shit out of you. Okay? And every time you see this dog, you're like, oh God. And you always run the other way. And you can't make it past that point in the street because you're always running the other way. Right? But one day, you're determined. You're determined to see it right through. You know it can't get to you. It's on a chain. You're determined to see it right through. You're just going to walk right past this dog. You're going to get on with your day. You're sick of this. You don't want to live like this anymore. So you're walking down the street. You've had enough. It's time to make a change. It's time to change your life. And you decided to go for it. You walk past this dog. And as soon as you walk past this dog, something weird happens. Right? Something weird happens. It gets all defeated. And it turns out this thing wasn't a monster. It wasn't a beast. Right? It was its own shadow. This thing wasn't out to get you. It wasn't out to eat you. Okay? It was from down the street. It looked like this horrible, horrible monster of a dog that just wanted to eat you, right? But as you got a little bit closer and a little bit closer each and every day, you were determined to get a little bit closer because this thing is ruining your life. You start to see that this dog wasn't actually drooling or foaming at the mouth. It just appeared that way from down the street. You start to see that this dog wasn't some big, mean-looking dog. He was actually just a little teddy bear, right? He just wanted to be pet on the head, a little pat on the head. You start to see this as you get a little bit closer and closer, and then you start to make the realization, for so long I've limited my life and what I've done, and I've put myself in this little comfort zone because of what I thought was a huge big monster chained up right down the street, and I wouldn't go near it. But as I started to get closer and closer to it, I started to realize that this was all a mental fiction that I had brought up in my own head and was causing myself to be so fearful and suffer unnecessarily. But as I'm getting closer and closer, I'm seeing that this dog doesn't want to eat me. This is just a big teddy bear. He wasn't actually drooling at the mouth, right? It just looked that way from down the street. And then you get up to this dog and you pet it on the head. You pet it on the head, right? And it's just sitting there. It's got its tongue out. It's got its tail wagging. And you're just thinking to yourself, for so long I let my life end right here at this point on the street. For so long I let my life be confined to this point on the street because of what I told myself of what I thought was a threat, what I thought was out to get me, what I thought was going to hurt me, what I thought was going to kill me. And here I am patting it on the head, and it was nothing like I had imagined it to be. For so long I had scared myself and limited myself to what I could or could not do because of the horror stories I was telling myself. But as soon as I worked on it, and I got a little closer and closer, and I started to befriend what I thought was something horrible, I realized that it was nothing like I thought it was. It was nothing like I thought it was. It was just a big, nice teddy bear just wanted a little pat on the head. That's all it was. But see, I couldn't see that from down the street. I couldn't see that from down the street. So I had to push myself and make myself realize maybe this is just in my imagination. Maybe I'm telling myself too many horror stories. Let's go find out for ourselves. And then I did. And guess what? I discovered that I was making myself so fearful, and I was making myself suffer for so long, so unnecessarily, because it turns out it wasn't a monster. It turns out I was suffering over my own imagination. There is nothing to fear but fear itself, and this is the same way anxiety symptoms work. The things that you have convinced yourself about your anxiety symptoms are just horror stories. But if you stop long enough to accept them and see them for what they are, instead of telling yourself horror stories, eventually one day you'll make it past that point in the street, right? It's so sweet to hear. It's so sweet to hear that this big horrible thing that we think is out to get us is actually just our own mind, things that we've convinced ourselves of that simply aren't true. It's so sweet to hear that there's not actually a demon out there trying to get us. It's so sweet to hear that it's just ourselves. We're just scaring ourselves. We're just in the habit of telling ourselves horror stories over harmless little symptoms, right? We're just used to making mountains out of molehills. We're just used to telling ourselves negative things out of symptoms that aren't actually out to get us, that aren't actually all that horrible. And as soon as we start to realize that and we get closer and closer to the truth, eventually one day you're like, you know what? I am responsible for the way I feel. And for so long I've told myself horror stories, and I don't have to do that anymore. I have the power and control to not do that anymore. That is so sweet. It is so sweet to know. Okay? And that's what I want you to take away from this today, chat. That is the point of today's stream. There is nothing to fear but fear itself. That was a nice little rant. We went on for about 20 minutes. Let me catch my breath for a second. There is nothing to fear but fear itself, chat. I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to read some comments. Abraham, thank you so much for the $5 dono during my mid-rant. I already read your note, right? Like I already read that? Okay, cool. We're going to read some comments. Thank you so much for that, dude. Let me update the tip goal here real quick. There we go. There we go. Tip goal updated. Appreciate it. You've saved my life. I appreciate you and what you do. Hey, I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for helping grow my channel just by watching. I truly, truly appreciate it. I'm grateful for you. I'm going to walk past that dog. Nice doggy. That's an awesome analogy, Wonder Bro. Right? Right? I like that. I came up with that off the top of my head, by the way. I mean, I thought that was pretty good. I thought that was a pretty good one, right? I didn't know really at first where I was going with that. I knew where I wanted to be with that. I didn't really know how to get there, but we found our way. We found our way. It's been so different ever since I started watching your videos. Well, I'm happy to help you, and congrats. Congrats. Keep moving forward. There's no reason to stop now, right? There's no reason to stop now. Keep moving forward. It makes me excited for the time when the fear of anxiety is gone. That makes me more motivated to actually put the work in. So, practice daily. Practice daily. Practice daily, not adding that second fear. Think back to this stream, and if you need to rewatch this stream, it will be uploaded. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Exactly. Exactly. And you've told yourself horror stories about your symptoms for so long, and you're keeping yourself worked up over nothing, and you don't get to realize that until you start practicing, right? You don't get to truly realize that until you start practicing. You don't get to realize that until you start practicing. There is nothing to fear but fear itself, Roosevelt. Exactly. There is nothing to fear but anxiety itself, Wonder Bro. Two very smart dudes. Just started college and dealing with this in classrooms. Fear. Well, hey, this is the stream for you right here. This is the stream for you right here. Hey, rewatch this, Nisha, rewatch this stream. This applies to anybody and everybody. Don't think you're a special case, right? Don't convince yourself that this stream and everything that I just spoke about won't help you because somehow you're a different case. You're not a different case. If you're dealing with anxiety and you know you're dealing with anxiety and fear, then this stream is for you. Rewatch this stream. It's the perfect stream. It sums it up for you. It will be uploaded. It will be uploaded. See, that's another pretty big pitfall. A lot of people think, well, you know, I'm a different case. There's something different about me, right? There's something different about me. This advice won't work for me because of this reason or that reason. That's a huge lie. If you're dealing with fear and if you're dealing with anxiety symptoms, this stream is for you. All right? Wonder Bro, anxiety fighting genius, working up nerve to walk past barking dog who really just wanted some loving analogy, sheer genius. Yes. Yes. Yes, I love that. Like I said, I didn't really know where we were going with that at first, but here we are. Yes, we tend to think we are a special case. That is a huge pitfall. That is a huge pitfall. We tend to think we are a special case and that it won't work for us. And it's really just, you know, it's kind of like a self-sabotaging excuse. It really is. And it's one that I've seen quite a bit. Not saying that anybody in this stream is doing that. I'm just making a point. All right, guys. I will be right back. 2 seconds. All right, sorry, chat. That took me longer than I expected. Wonder, bro, I know the symptoms won't cause me any physical harm, but my primary fear is getting trapped. Sorry if I'm echoing. I didn't know that mic was down, but my primary fear is getting trapped in the cycle for the rest of my life. Every day feels like a drag. So, again, you've created a horror story in your head that you're going to be trapped like this for the rest of your life, which is the exact reason you're experiencing the symptoms, because of that horror story you're telling yourself. So, ironically enough, you tell yourself the horror story that you're fearful of getting trapped in this cycle for the rest of your life, therefore you get more symptoms, right? And that's really the ironic part about this whole cycle. That's really the ironic part about this whole cycle, is that we tell ourselves horror stories and then we experience symptoms. So you tell yourself, my fear is getting trapped in this cycle for the rest of my life. That is the horror story that you're entertaining. Therefore, the body doesn't know the difference between that and a real danger, and you get more anxiety. So that is the ironic self-fulfilling prophecy type of deal that we got going on here. That is the hamster wheel. That is the hamster wheel. I just joined. Sure, we'll watch the stream. Great stream. Highly recommend you watch it back if you're late. It will be uploaded. It will be uploaded. How to stop jealousy, comparison, and ego. So, first off, you have to know what ego is, right? Before you can really tackle it. You have to know what it is, and ego is the voice in your head, right? It's that inner dialogue, those negative, intrusive thoughts. It's all that stuff going on in the head, ego. So, first off, know what it is. Secondly, then you can choose, do I want to live from a place of ego, or do I want to just be aware of ego? See, if you're aware of ego, and you shine the light of awareness, as Eckhart Tolle would call it, on ego, then ego can't have such a control over you. And that's what you really got to practice, especially with feelings like jealousy, comparison, and just overall ego. You have to practice being aware that it's happening. Because if you're not even aware it's happening, there's not much you can do about it, right? So that's the big lifesaver right there as far as ego is concerned. Just being aware and practicing being aware. Practicing being aware is huge when it comes to ego. Practice, practice, practice. The pull of ego itself is pretty strong, mostly because your whole life you've lived by ego, right? You've lived and died by ego. Ego's been your go-to for so long. So that's why we say it takes practice. Just like with anything else, just like with anxiety, changing your relationship with anxiety, being aware of your own ego takes practice as well. Because, second fear and being ego-driven, these are all things that have become almost second nature to you, right? Almost second nature because you've done them for so long. You've done them for so long. Also, I would highly recommend Eckhart Tolle if anyone wants to check Eckhart Tolle out. See, again, King, you're telling yourself more horror stories. So as you sit and describe how you look at the clock and you've suffered for so long, this is more horror story after horror story after horror story after horror story after horror story. Your body not knowing the difference between a horror story and a real threat gives you more anxiety. You stay in the hamster wheel. This is the ironic self-fulfilling prophecy. So you're in this hamster wheel and you're telling yourself horror story after horror story after horror story, and you continue to have this very negative inner dialogue, which just gives you more of the very anxiety that you're trying to get away from. So that's why we say there's nothing to fear but fear itself. That's why yesterday we talked about how you have to stop scaring yourself. So notice when you're doing this, because obviously in your bad habit of it, I was too, and everyone here in the chat has been in a bad habit of it at one point or another. Notice when you're in this bad habit of telling yourself these stories, these horror stories. The body doesn't know how to respond to this. It thinks that your negative inner dialogue is a real danger. So again, self-fulfilling prophecy here. The hamster wheel, the hamster wheel, the hamster wheel. I will be right back, chat. All right, chat, give me like 2 seconds and I will be right back. I gotta grab some packages off the porch because I don't want the dogs to eat them. So give me like 2 seconds and we'll be right back with the stream. Whew. All right. Sorry about that, chat. I try to be as quick as possible, so I'm a little bit out of breath. I was like, I don't want to leave my stream hanging for too long. How's it going, chat? Jess, Abraham. Dogs don't want to eat them, Wonder Bro. They just want some petting. Brother, if I try to stop scaring myself, isn't it not a resistance to my natural feelings? Your natural feelings aren't the problem. The problem is that you are scaring yourself. So you might think these feelings are your natural feelings. These feelings are the result of you scaring yourself. See the difference there? Big, big difference there. Big, big, big difference there. What's up, Pep? I haven't seen you in a minute, dude. How you doing? How to deal with thoughts that are not necessarily a what if. The same way you would deal with a what if. Leave them alone. Do you want to fuel the fire of something that is not important to you, or something that you know is negative in nature, or something you know is just some BS? Of course you don't want to fuel that fire. Of course you don't want to fuel that fire. But every time you continue to argue or fight with these thoughts, that's exactly what you're doing, right? Yeah, exactly. You have to take responsibility for creating second fear and lose that victim mentality. So, these may feel like your normal feelings, but I'm here to tell you it's the horror stories that you're telling yourself that are creating these very feelings that you want to get away from. It might take the nerves time to heal even after you stop telling yourself horror stories, yes, but you are creating 99% of your suffering, and you are adding that sharp, sharp edge, right? And you are keeping yourself in that hamster wheel, stuck in that hamster wheel. A lot of people don't even realize they're doing it to themselves, and that's what we're here to point out, right? It's almost like second nature. It's a habit. Second fear really is a habit. Changing your relationship with fear takes time. It's like breaking a bad habit. How to identify which is natural feeling and which is my own creation? This is where I am getting really confused. If you're in a state of fear almost 24/7, I can promise you that you're creating a lot of that with the horror stories that you're telling yourself. I promise you that 110%. What are the signs of recovering from anxiety, Pep? You'll start to notice that if you are going from a sensitized to a desensitized place, right, you'll start to notice your old self start to come out a little bit more. You'll start to notice that things that triggered you while you were sensitized are no longer triggering you. You'll start to notice that it becomes irrelevant, right? And it happens so gradually. Healing happens so gradually. There's not like a grand moment with bells and whistles, but you start to notice that you're getting back to your old self little by little. Little by little. So it happens over time, and there might not be one big moment where you realize it, but you will realize it slowly and slowly and slowly that you're becoming your old self again. Hey, your mind's going to do whatever it wants to do, Kappa. So the worst thing you can do is try to resist it, right? Or try to fight with it, because then you're just fueling the fire. Let those negative, intrusive thoughts come, but just roll your eyes at them, continue on with your day. Don't give them any of your attention, right? Just let them be there, but you don't necessarily have to open the door. Takes time, takes practice. Takes time, takes practice. I mean, you don't really make life-changing improvements to yourself overnight. And that's to be expected. Changing your relationship towards fear doesn't happen overnight. Changing the fact that you go from arguing with your thoughts to just viewing them as irrelevant doesn't happen overnight. These things do not happen overnight. It's a learning. It takes time. It takes learning. It's a process, right? But the sooner you get started, the better off you'll be. You can get started right now, right now, changing your relationship towards fear, and you'll be thankful that you did. You'll be thankful that you did. Learning, and improving. Very proud of you, FIFA. Very proud of you. Don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up. That's a huge pointer. Just very simple pointer, but a huge pointer. Do not beat yourself up. It takes time. It takes time. Be proud of yourself for the fact that you're here, for the fact that you're learning. Maybe you're not even in the doing stage yet, and I urge you to be. I urge you to be as soon as possible, but maybe you're not quite there yet and you're still just in that learning phase. Okay, well, pat yourself on the back for being in that learning phase, right? Everyone will come out of it. Exactly, King. It just takes time, man. It takes practice and it takes the right advice. And you're here now. You got this. You're here now and you got this. Anybody in this chat, anybody and everybody in this chat can recover. Anybody and everybody in this chat can make lasting improvements to their mental health. Absolutely. 110%. Doesn't matter what labels you put on yourself. Doesn't matter what you've been told by this negative person or that negative person. You absolutely can begin at any point in time, even right now, changing a relationship and the way that you talk to yourself as far as fear is concerned. Absolutely. What's up, Tiger Lily? How you doing? Wonder Bro, you're a blessing, and thank you. No problem, Edward. That's what I'm here for, dude. That is what I'm here for. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy doing it. What do you think, Wonder Bro, about symptoms of anxiety? Are they real or just imagination? Well, I mean, physical symptoms of anxiety, yeah, they're to be felt, right? We can't deny that. But what you tell yourself about the physical symptoms of anxiety, absolutely imaginary. Absolutely just comes down to perspective, right? We can't deny the existence of physical symptoms, but we absolutely have to take responsibility for the way that we view these physical symptoms. That's what determines second fear. Hey, I appreciate that, Rose. Thank you. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. I've said it a million times before, but I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for you guys supporting the channel, liking the streams, sharing the streams. Wouldn't be here without you guys. Yeah, little spikes of anxiety and panic, they can make you very tired afterwards, right? That energy can make you tired, and that's very normal. It's very normal. It's to be expected. Do you think it's possible to become sensitized again after fully recovering using acceptance? If you scare yourself to that point again, right? If you fall back into the same bad habits that put you there in the first place, right? But why would you do that? Why would you do that after knowing everything that you know about fear and your relationship towards fear? Why would anyone do that to themselves, right? So the only way you could do that and end up in that boat again is if you literally picked back up all the bad old habits that put you there to begin with. And I don't think anyone would do that to themselves. I don't think anyone would do that to themselves. You know too much at that point. You know too much at that point. There would be no sense in picking up all those bad habits again. Jasmine, much love right back at you. Hey, life's good, chat. Life's good. And these feelings aren't a problem. I'll tell you what is a problem, though. Our perspective of these feelings. I'll tell you what is a problem, though. Our perspective of these feelings and the way that we describe these feelings to ourselves and the horror stories we're telling ourselves, right? The way we talk to ourselves, that's a problem. Can be. Not always. Can be a problem. Okay, but these feelings are not a problem. Fear is not a problem. The emotion of fear is not a problem. What can be a problem, however, is our perspective. What can be a problem, however, is the way we look at life. What can be a problem, however, is the way we talk to ourselves about our current situation. Situation, feelings, the list goes on and on and on. These things are not necessarily a problem. The problem is what we tell ourselves about these feelings, right? It's how we talk to ourselves. This leads to suffering. This leads to suffering. This leads to suffering. Hope all is well. Having a great day here. I'm 20 years sensitized, and that Wonder Bro and Claire Weeks teaches is what works. Keep God first and relax. Great job, Wonder Bro. Hey, man, I appreciate that. I truly do. I truly do. 20 years sensitized, but feeling better. Wonder Bro, Dr. Claire Weeks, hey, that's awesome. Proud of you. Proud of you. Keep it up. Keep it up. Changes can be made. We can always self-improve. Doesn't matter how long we've been at it. Right? Irrelevant. Irrelevant. Doesn't matter how long we've been at it. If we're ready for change, we can have change. If change is what we want, we can have it. If we're willing to put in that work, we can have it. I don't think you'll necessarily lose progress if you have a moment where you feel sorry for yourself, Jess. These moments can be very fleeting. Let them be fleeting. Let them be fleeting. Feeling sorry for yourself is not going to accomplish anything, but if it happens, it happens. Let it be fleeting. The best thing I heard about anxiety and panic attack, nothing will happen. Exactly. Nothing ever does happen. Wonder Bro, how do I stop telling myself horror stories? Be more mindful of the way that you're talking to yourself. Be more mindful of the way that you're talking to yourself. You need to get into a habit of being more mindful, which means being more aware of the way you're talking to yourself. Second fear is the way that you talk to yourself. So when you say things like, oh God, I don't want to feel this, or oh God, here it comes, or oh God, this is horrible, or oh God, this is awful, this is again horror stories that you're telling yourself, right? This is second fear. And we have to be more mindful, which basically just means we have to be more aware of when we're doing this, right? And it doesn't matter how strong that habit is. That might be a very strong habit for you, okay? But you can break it. You can absolutely break it. So what to do if you hear something on TV that scares you, causes huge anxiety attack. Should I act like this info is no danger? My brain will eventually catch up and stop giving me anxiety. This info is not needed. It's not needed. Whatever's happening is happening, right? And we can't deny what's happening. So if you want to watch the news and scare yourself, that is totally your choice. But honestly, turn it off. Turn it off. What's the point? What's the point? What's the point? Where's the worry going to get you? And we talk about how irrelevant worry is. Worry is not going to do anything for you. So in that regard, I say, what is the point? If you're watching things that are putting you in a fearful state, what's the point? What's the point of doing that to yourself, right? It's time to change your relationship towards fear. Fear is not a bad thing to feel, and we should embrace fear, and we should stop fearing fear. But at the same time, what's the point of stressing yourself out by watching things that are just going to stress you out, right? Yes, we should embrace fear. Yes, we should learn to overcome our fear of fear. But at the same time, it's totally pointless to watch things that are going to put you in a stressed out state of mind. There's no point in it, right? Because worry accomplishes nothing anyway. So, although we should obviously be working towards changing our relationship towards fear, there's no point in taking in information that's just going to put us in a stressed out state, because we're not accomplishing anything anyway. So. I actually haven't seen the new Joker movie. I actually haven't seen it. I've seen clips. It looks pretty good. Okay, so there's two things going on here that you have to be aware of, King. There is intrusive negative thoughts. These are thoughts that come without your say-so. They just pop into your head. Leave them alone. Just carry on with your day. Don't say anything back to them. Don't talk to them. Don't argue with them. You're just fueling the fire if you do. If you want something to go away, you stop giving it your attention. Just let it be there without getting so involved. Okay, and then there's the way that you consciously choose to speak to yourself. Huge difference between the way you speak to yourself, that's what you're choosing to do, and negative intrusive thoughts that come out of nowhere. So know the difference between the two. Seems like you're experiencing a lot of negative intrusive thoughts. Okay, you have no power over that, you have no control over that, and the more you try to find power and control over that, the more worked up you get. So you absolutely just have to let those thoughts be there without opening the door. Just roll your eyes at them. Each time they pop up, okay, get on with your day. Do something. Do something. Get on with your day and do something, right? That is the best way to combat negative thoughts, negative intrusive thoughts, by just stepping out of the ring. Because if you get into the ring with them, they're just going to rock your shit. They just rock your shit. Trust me, I've been there. So starve them of the fuel that they need to survive, which is your involvement. And that is how you deal with negative intrusive thoughts. Now, the way that you talk to yourself, that's completely up to you. That's completely up to you. If you're consciously choosing to talk to yourself in some sort of negative way, that's completely up to you. And we need to work on that. But negative intrusive thoughts, leave them alone. Okay, so if your inner voice is always positive, that's great. Work on it. Work on it. Is it negative about the symptoms though? Because if it is, that needs to change. However, as far as your negative intrusive thoughts go, which seems to be what you're struggling with, leave them alone. If you want relief from them, you have to stop fueling the fire, right? Step out of the ring. I've got a question since I have tried to socialize online. It's just the fact that sometimes I do get terrible anxiety about when people do leave me out. I can't really focus on these thoughts. So if you're getting terrible anxiety for this reason or for that reason or for this reason or for that reason, irrelevant. We don't want to look too deeply into it. We don't want to overcomplicate it. You're experiencing anxiety over this, over that, over this, over that. Change your relationship towards that anxiety. right? Start to see fear for what it is. Start to see anxiety for what it is. Start to see that your negative voice has a lot to do with the way that you feel, right? How do you cope with the bodily symptoms? Fast rate, nausea, dizziness, can't breathe. To teach the mind is okay. Acceptance does work like off on switch. Change your relationship towards your symptoms, right? So important. We can't tell you anything that's going to magically make the symptoms disappear. But what we can tell you is that if you start to change your perspective towards them and just allow them to be, they will disappear on their own, right? That's what we can tell you. Unfortunately, there's no way to just make certain symptoms just disappear like that. However, there is a way to stop adding second fear, which is to change the way you talk to yourself about your symptoms. And this is going to lead to your healing. This is going to lead to your healing. Find comfort in the discomfort. Is that the problem? It could be. You know, your brain does watch your behaviors to see if you're okay. Sorry, my dog is scratching and she has a very loud chain on. We'll let her take care of that. We'll let her take care of that real quick. It could be. You know, our two main keys is one, that you get on with your life because you show your brain with your behaviors that all is well and that there's not a real tiger in the room with you. And two, we leave those negative intrusive thoughts alone. We leave those negative intrusive thoughts alone. And we actively work on changing our relationship towards fear. I mean, if you wanted to, PJ, I mean, at the end of the day, if you change your relationship towards fear, you're not adding second fear anymore, right? So, solve all. What's up, D-Block? I've been struggling a lot with memory, places I have to go that have caused intense anxiety in the past, but I've been practicing a lot and realizing that it's just memory. That is awesome, Jen. Keep it up. So important that we keep up these new good habits, right? Hey, Arnav, I appreciate that, dude. Even though we know that we're not the person. Hey, stop worrying about what other people think about you. Stop worrying about what other people think about you. Right? I mean, you could go into depth on that all day long, but let's just leave it there. Stop worrying about what other people think about you. I know that's easier said than done, but what are you gaining from it? A lot of times we have to ask ourselves that question: what are we gaining from this negative habit, right? What are we gaining from it? Hey, you know, people are going to say what they want. People are going to do whatever the hell they want at the end of the day. It's just what it is. You can do your best. I mean, you can do your best, but you can only do so much. You can only do so much. And then there comes a point where you're just torturing yourself. You're just torturing yourself over the opinions of other people. You're just torturing yourself over trying to do this, over trying to do that. Eventually, there has to come a point where you say, you know what? I did the best I could. And sometimes it comes to that. And it has to come to that. It has to that. If someone's driving you fucking insane, right, with their opinions of you, or whatever the situation may be, you have to get to a point where you say, what are these negative habits doing for me? What are these negative habits doing for me? So when you sit around and worry so much about what other people are saying about you, or when you sit around and try to do all these things and it just seems like you're getting nowhere with these, this person or these people, you have to get to a point where you say enough is enough. And I've done everything that I could. At some point, you have to be selfish. At some point, you have to be selfish. If it feels like you're just ramming your head into a brick wall over and over again, which, believe me, with some people, it will feel that way, you have to stop hitting yourself. You have to stop ramming your head against that brick wall. So stop worrying about what people have to say about you. Stop worrying about people's irrelevant opinions. It's not serving you. It's not serving you. It is not serving you. It will help you, King. It will help you if you get back into those habits, yeah. Those old hobbies that you used to enjoy. It will help you. And I'm glad you're doing good, D-Block. Hey, King, keep practicing, man. I hope you have a good night's sleep, man. I wish the best for you. Keep practicing, moving forward each day. Move on with your life. It'll help you get out of your head. It'll help you get out of your head, change your relationship towards fear. Much love will always keep supporting you, as I am quite emotionally sensitive. And yeah, as you said, it literally creates nothing but torturing yourself. We are also so close to 10K. We are so close to 10K, guys, and I have all of you to thank for that. I have all of you to thank for that. Whenever I notice the more I change and improve, the more people around me change. OCD really affects others that care about you. That is positive. I mean, it's positive that if I improve, it affects them in a positive way. Yeah, I mean, people in your life love to see you excel, right? It's always a good thing. It's always a good thing. The people that care about you, they love to see it. They love to see it. I love to see it. It boosts me up. I love to see you guys come on here with all of your success stories. Hey, that just means it's time. That just means it's time to change your relationship towards those physical symptoms. It really is time to start being more aware and more mindful of the way that you're speaking to yourself about those symptoms. I think I shared something yesterday, I believe, on the Vacate Fear Facebook page. Check it out if you haven't already. Here it is. All it takes is a shift in perception to create a new reality. Life is but a dream. Don't turn it into a nightmare. I love that. Life is but a dream. Don't turn it into a nightmare. That's a good one. That is a good one to live by. It all begins and ends in what you tell yourself. Let's get some lo-fi going. There we go. A little bit of lo-fi going in the background. Always nice. Turn that up a little bit. Don't know why I didn't think of this sooner. Pretty exciting stuff, man, to almost be at 10K. Pretty exciting stuff. I think we're only like, let's see. Like 140 away. Hey, that's where we got to practice being more present, Arnav. Again, it comes back to being more mindful of the way that you're speaking to yourself. If you're noticing a lot of inner dialogue, it's all coming from a place of ego. It's not serving you. So how do I manage my time? What do I do here? What do I do there? You're always living anywhere but here, right? So be more mindful of that. Be more mindful of the fact that you tend to go through life always with this inner dialogue. And let's start to distance ourselves from that inner dialogue, especially if it's negative in nature. Especially if it's negative in nature. And this all begins and ends with increasing our awareness. What am I doing in this moment that might be considered self-sabotage? Am I talking to myself very negatively about my symptoms? Am I telling myself horror stories? If the answer to these questions are yes, be more aware that you're doing it and then work on it. How do you work on it? By stepping out of the mind, by changing your perspective of your symptoms. You know, there's several ways we can go about this. Loving the lights. Yeah, I love these lights. These lights are awesome. They were a pretty big pain to set up, I'm not gonna lie. They were a pretty big pain to set up. Worth it though. Worth it. Well, it's not so much about changing your thoughts, because then you're arguing with your negative intrusive thoughts, and that just fuels the fire. Changing your perspective of your thoughts and feelings is one thing, because you're consciously changing the way you're talking to yourself, right? But arguing with your negative intrusive thoughts and trying to do thought replacement usually just puts you into a rabbit hole. So if you're experiencing negative intrusive thoughts, just let them be there and just tell yourself and remind yourself that they will pass, right? If you don't fuel the fire. And as far as your perspective goes and the way that you consciously choose to talk to yourself throughout your day, yeah, that is up to you. That part is up to you. But arguing with negative intrusive thoughts don't really do much. It actually does quite the opposite. So 2 things going on here that you need to be aware of. Negative intrusive thoughts, leave that door closed. Okay? The way that you talk to yourself about your symptoms and your negative intrusive thoughts, that's up to you. That's up to you. Notice if you're adding second fear or not. We got an ad. I donate, but I'm broke as usual. Hey, it's fine. No worries. I do agree with you when you say, it has a huge influence on your reality. Your perception and the way you talk to yourself does have a huge influence on your reality. But as far as negative, intrusive thoughts are concerned, just remind yourself you don't have to go there. I know it's really tempting. It's really tempting to go there. Let's turn down this music just a tad. Again, big thanks. I've noted your advice. The lights are freaking awesome. Wonder Bro, take care. Hey, man, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. In a nutshell, man, I'll say it once again. Leave those negative, intrusive thoughts alone. Just remind yourself that they will pass. They're not important. However, the way that you talk to yourself, whether or not you're adding second fear, if it's negative, if you are adding second fear, let's work on that. Let's work on that. There's always a better way to view things, right? And the point of this stream sums it up pretty well. So this will be uploaded if you'd like to go back and watch it again. Exactly, Mids. Exactly. You nailed it. It takes time. Don't beat yourself up. Hey, man, if anyone in here right now would like to join our Discord chat, there you go. How can we shift our perspective about our relationship with symptoms? So your relationship with your symptoms is your perspective, right? There's really not a difference between the two. So the way you view your symptoms, your relationship with your symptoms, that does come down to your perspective. So again, it comes down to being more mindful of when you're adding second fear, aka when you're viewing your symptoms in a negative way. Being more mindful of when you're doing that, being more aware of when you're doing that, because if you're not even aware that you're doing it, how can you possibly step out of that, right? How can you possibly make changes? So you got to be more aware of when you're doing that. We call that self-sabotage. We call that adding second fear when we view our symptoms in a negative light. So be more aware of when you're doing that, and then you'll have more power to make that necessary change. He's a bit hard for me to watch. I can relate. I mean, at first, before I really got on the path with my spiritual journey and trying to, self-improve, I wasn't a huge fan. It was a little bit too slow-paced for me. But the more you give it a try and the less you judge, the the more you'll start to catch on. Please join Wonder Bros Discord. It's the best place I've been in a very long time. People there are awesome. I only have installed Discord because of your server only. That's awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah, the Discord is awesome. There's a lot of helpful people over there. Everybody cares about everybody. It's very supportive, and I'm happy to be a part. That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. Helping people grow, helping people learn, helping people improve, no matter where they might be. And I'm very happy to be a part of that. It's very rewarding. Can you give me an example of what we should be saying to ourselves about anxiety? It's up to you. It's up to you. If you notice that you're very negative about your own anxiety, we call that second fear, right? Because you're telling yourself horror stories, and that's the habit that we got to be aware of, and the habit that we eventually got to break in order to heal. So if you can find more comfort in, instead of looking at your anxiety as this horrible, awful thing, if you can find more comfort in breaking your symptoms down and actually looking at them for what they are instead of what the mind says they are, like, oh, this feeling of adrenaline or energy does not mean I'm going to go insane. It's literally the same adrenaline and energy that you would feel if you were super excited and just won the lottery. See, that's just an example of how you can change your relationship towards fear by seeing the symptoms for what they are, what they really are, like in reality, based on the horror stories that you've told yourself for so long, which is leading to all of this unnecessary second fear, which is leading to the nerves being sensitized, remaining sensitized, right? So there's a million different examples, but you find what works for you. And I promise you, the more you practice changing your relationship towards fear and seeing it for what it really is, the sooner you will feel relief. It's an ongoing learning process, guys. It really is. That's why I say don't beat yourself up if it doesn't happen overnight. Like, you might experience an anxiety symptom and automatically, out of habit and out of almost second nature at this point, you immediately start to tell yourself horror stories, right? It just might feel so second nature to you. But that's why I say it takes time, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people come on my channel, watch my streams, watch my videos, and assume that I just learned about acceptance and fear and just overnight became this anxiety person who had been through acceptance and recovered so quickly. And no, I mean, I'm just human too. I'm just human too. It took me time. It took me time, and it'll probably take you time. That's not to say that you won't start to experience relief sooner rather than later. That's just to say that you shouldn't beat yourself up if you're not perfect at this this new lifestyle, because that's really what it is, right? A new lifestyle change. Just don't beat yourself up over it if it doesn't happen for you overnight, right? It takes time. Don't think that I got it overnight and just flew right with it, no problem. It doesn't happen that way for most people. It does not happen that way for most people. Not saying it's impossible for it to happen like that, where you can just kind of pick it up and run with it, no problem. But I am saying it doesn't happen like that for most people. And you shouldn't beat yourself up if it doesn't happen like that for you. You should be your best friend right now. You should absolutely 110% be your best friend right now and work on it daily. Okay? Work on it daily, but don't be afraid to pat yourself on the back. You should be proud of yourself, absolutely. breaking out of these horrible habits are something that you should 110% be proud of yourself for. No doubt. But now I'm okay. Hey, I'm happy for your progress, FIFA. Congrats, man. Keep at it. Is that fast to recover? 4 months? I'd say that's generally pretty quick, yeah. I feel so much better when I vented out my problems here and always have felt better to be here. Remember not to fight the intrusive thoughts. They would go away on their own. Acceptance is key, right? Change your relationship towards symptoms. Yes, you have nailed it. You have nailed it. You have nailed it. You have caught on. Congratulations. Sometimes the fear of physical symptoms trigger the anxiety instead of some anxiety-provoking events. Exactly. Very, very common. But it doesn't matter, right? Regardless, right? Whether this triggers it or that triggers it, whatever. We can still work on changing our relationship towards fear, which is what we need to do. So don't get too caught up in the details. Don't get too caught up in the details. You know, I feel this way because just work on the bad habits. That's the root problem right there. So don't put too much stress and strain and complication on yourself by getting too caught up in the little details about when, where, how, and why. Just work on breaking those bad habits. Second fear gives bodily symptoms when we're in an uncomfortable place or whatever our triggering thought is. At that moment when you're feeling all the symptoms because you're practicing, what do? You be mindful. You increase your mindfulness. And when I say that, I simply mean increase your awareness. Am I adding second fear with the way that I'm talking to myself? Am I adding second fear with the stories that I'm telling myself about the symptoms? Am I adding second fear with my judgment, my labels, my perception of the feelings? If the answer to any of those questions are yes in that moment, then it's time to make a change. So a lot of times, like I say, we get carried away. We don't even realize that we're adding second fear because we're so used to it. So being more aware that you're doing it is huge because you can't really change anything if you're not aware of it, right? So it took me 3 to 4 months to reach this stage. I still have anxiety, still need to learn many things. I don't think it's so much that you need to learn many things because let's remember, let's not confuse ourselves. Let's not overcomplicate this because that's just a breeding ground for extra stress. So let's reword that a little bit. It's not that you need to learn many things because you already know that second fear is the problem. Second fear is the way you talk to yourself about your symptoms. It's the way that you view fear symptoms. So that's pretty straightforward. That's pretty straightforward. I think we can all agree on that. So let's change our wording a bit. It's not that you have so much more to learn. It's that you have some more to practice. You just need some more time to practice. See, there's always a better way that you can word things, right? And that means so much to your brain. That means so much to your brain. I love Nightbot. So helpful. best counter to most problems of anxiety or depression, which can be manageable by us, as I've heard from many people giving this advice. Mental toughness or resilience. So it's not so much about mental toughness or resilience, because then you're coming from a standpoint of there's something to beat. And this is not necessarily something that we're trying to beat. It's not something that we're necessarily trying to fight against. In fact, we're trying to do the opposite. We're trying to learn to live beside these symptoms and see them for what they are for the time being, right? Lights are awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, like I said, they were a pain to put up, but worth it. So, Tiger, in your case, you would allow yourself to feel the anxiety that comes from not doing the compulsion until the anxiety fades. And I know that's a lot easier said than done, but change your relationship towards fear by the way that you talk to yourself about fear, right? While you're experiencing that fear and not carrying out the compulsion. And sooner or later, you'll see how you benefit from this. You'll see that these OCDs lose their power over you. Hey, man, my pleasure. My pleasure. Hey, FIFA, it seems like you're on the right path, dude. It seems like you're definitely on the right path. You just need some practice, right? Oof, bumped that mic a little bit too hard. Apologize if that deafened anybody for a second. I'm enjoying this lo-fi, dude. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm just vibing over here. So, a change of perspective on chest pain. Find whatever works for you. So, I could give you a million perspectives, right? But some of those are not going to be that comfortable for you. Some of those are not going to work for you. So, changing your relationship towards fear is really a personal experience. It's a personal experience because what helps me in my perspectives may not help you in your perspectives. The way that I talk to myself about fear may not be the way that you want to talk to yourself about fear. So, I could give you what I would consider a helpful change in perspective, but it's really a personal journey when it comes to changing the way that you view things. What can you find in your experience, from the knowledge that you have, past, present, or future? What can you find that is going to help you change your relationship towards fear? And these are the big questions we have to ask ourselves. How can you begin to look at your fear in a better way? How can you begin to break these habits of second fear? How can you personally change the way that you're looking at things to find a better way to look at things, right? Should we share a condition with near ones? I'm afraid of being negatively judged by them. Again, people judging you, people expressing their opinions on you, very irrelevant. And you can torture yourself with that, but obviously that's not going to get us anywhere. So don't give too much credit to people's rushed opinions on you. But to answer your question, should you share what you're going through with ones that are close to you? Again, it's a personal thing. If you choose to do that, more power to you. Personally, I didn't, but that's just me. I have my reasons. That's just me. If you want to share with people around you, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. I didn't, because the way I looked at it was, what are they going to be able to do for me? They're not going to be able to do anything for me. So it's like, I need to tackle this thing. I need to get on the ball with this thing, and I need to make self-improvements so that I can get over this thing. Dwelling on it's not going to help. So I personally just kept my mouth shut. But if it helps you to vent every now and then about the way that you feel to people that are close to you, absolutely, by all means, you should do that. I'm just telling you the way that I went. That doesn't have to be the way that you go. It's totally up to you. That's one way to look at it, PJ. I mean, no need to really drag it on too far, right? Short, sweet, and simple. William, thank you so much for the $20 dono, dude. I truly appreciate you. Let the spooky music play for a second. Hey, William, I truly appreciate that, man. I truly, truly appreciate that. Seriously, dude, thank you so much. I know the stream is set up a little bit differently. My video is a lot bigger on screen than it was. And I don't have the stream MVP thing back up yet, but thank you so much for that, William. I truly appreciate you, man. William and Abraham, thank you for your contributions today. I truly, truly appreciate it. Pat yourselves on the back. Thank you so, so much. Truly helps me out a ton. You guys are awesome. Can we show our contributors a little bit of love in the chat, please? Spam those heart emojis. Let them know that we are grateful for them. So, so grateful. Thank you. But yeah, PJ, no need to really drag it on too far. Short, sweet, and simple is usually the best route to go. So you could just say something like, these are just normal anxiety symptoms. It's one of the more common anxiety symptoms. Right? Doesn't mean anything. But again, I can give you my, what I would say and the perspective that I would try to adopt, but that might not really blend in with who you are as a person. So when I say changing your relationship towards fear is a personal experience, I mean that. So, you really have to dig around a little bit and figure out ways that you can look at fear that are more true. Because all second fear is horror stories that you continue to tell yourself, right? So there's a couple things going on here. Negative intrusive thoughts, stop entertaining them, stop fueling them. There's no need. You're just fueling the fire. The way you consciously choose to view fear, that's up to you. That's going to determine whether or not you're adding second fear. So if you're adding second fear, it's time to work on that habit. It's time to get back into life. All right, it's time to get back into old hobbies that you enjoy so that you'll stop sitting around and obsessing. So that's the acceptance part of things. We accept the way we feel and we get on with life, right? We accept the way we feel and we get on with life. And then as far as the mind stuff goes, be more aware of whether or not you're adding second fear, and if you are, work on it. Not acting fearfully, not behaving fearfully, and just getting on with life, of course, that is the acceptance part of thing. It's a good way to show your brain that there's no real danger, right? Your brain is watching you. But if you're adding a lot of second fear by mentally, the way you're talking to yourself, the way that you view fear, that also needs to be worked on. So that's why we call it the two main keys. Acceptance, get on with life, show your brain that there's no real danger, right? And then the second main key, stop opening the door to negative intrusive thoughts, change your relationship towards fear, right? Oh, we got an ad. Quick music break. I think focusing on the specific thoughts and symptoms you are having is not unique. It's important to realize that it's all anxiety and you're not crazy no matter the thought. Exactly. Change your relationship towards fear. I mean, I could go on and on for days with all the little specifics, but really it all boils down to, as Dr. Claire Weeks calls it, second fear. What is second fear? The way that you talk to yourself about your symptoms. It really all boils down to that. It really, at the end of the day, whether we say, get on with your day, we can word it a million different ways, but to keep it plain and simple, work on the habit of not adding second fear. To keep it plain and as simple as possible, we would say, if we had to, we would say, just work on not adding second fear. What is second fear? The way that you view fear, the way that you talk to yourself about your symptoms. Of course, there's a million different ways to put it, two main keys, whatever you want to do, but if, someone had a gun to my head and said, hey, explain how to recover from anxiety the simplest way possible, I would say, are you adding second fear? The way you talk to yourself about your symptoms? If the answer is yes, that's the habit you need to break. That's what I would say if I had to. FIFA. If I had to make it as simple as possible, that's what I would say. There's a few new faces in here that are starting to become regulars. I like it. What's up, Blake? So second fear is the way that you talk to yourself about your symptoms. If the way that you're talking in your head about your anxiety symptoms is negative, then you're adding second fear. That is the simplest way to put it. If the way that you're talking to yourself in your head about your symptoms is negative, then that is second fear. Why is that second fear? That's second fear because the body doesn't know the difference between a negative thought, a worrisome thought, and a real danger. So stop opening the door to those negative intrusive thoughts. They will pass. And start being mindful of whether or not you're consciously talking negatively to yourself. Exactly. And again, this takes time. Second fear is a habit. Add. So quiet today. You joined when the stream's about to end. We've actually been non-stop talking to the point where I'm like lightheaded. We're about 2 hours in, so we're about to wind it down here in a second. Was a great stream, though. It was a great stream. If anybody wants to watch it back, we'll definitely be uploading it. So if you missed it, no problem. Almost just yanked my mic out. Oh. Yeah, it's hard to believe we've been streaming for 2 hours, but hard to believe. Time flies. Hey, I appreciate that, Pep. I've been watching almost daily lately. So helpful. Thank you, Wonder. Hey, no problem. My pleasure. Alright, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down here because we are approaching that 2 hour mark in about 10 minutes. So I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for being here, so close to 10K subs, and I have you guys to thank for that. So thank you so much, and I'm going to get on out of here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing the content. It really does help, and I will see you guys in the next one. That's a pretty good snap. All right, you guys.